Hey, Barbell Logic listeners. What you're about to hear is one of a few episodes I recorded with my original co-host, Scott Hambrick. His life and lifting have changed a lot since you last heard him on the podcast. And in these episodes, we discussed what's changed and just catch up. And we also talk about lifting. Now, an important reminder that these podcasts are for entertainment purposes only. Scott's opinions are not necessarily the opinions of Barbell Logic or myself, but it makes for some pretty damn entertaining conversations. So Scott and I touch on cultural and political stuff that we don't normally touch on in the podcast. So if you don't want to hear that stuff, it's totally fine. We'll return to our normal podcast for barbell enthusiasts and coaches in just a couple weeks. If you've missed Scott on the podcast, I'm happy to bring this to you. I'm really proud of the podcast we recorded together, and I'm excited to have him back on the podcast for a few episodes. You can always listen to some of the older podcasts with Scott that are out in individual episodes or re-released in the series. If you want to just hear Scott, you can check out one of his podcasts, the Online Great Books podcast, the Music and Ideas podcast, and his new one, the Growing Resilience podcast, links for which you can find in the show notes. Hope you all enjoy the shows. You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
You know, I was there on September 11th. Clearly history was made, but it was that morning.
Right.
And then we were just sweeping up rubble for the next 20 years,
That's
right? Well, that was like a slow motion 9/11 for 2 years, you know?
Sure.
Such an odd thing.
Sure.
Such an odd thing. And
What effect did it have on your daily life?
the COVID thing,
No, 9/11.
it caused a lot of business problems for me.
Did.
A lot.
In what ways?
Well, that very day, we paid, I could go look this up. I should, because it would be interesting. I think we paid over $7 a gallon for diesel that day.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember that. I think they got back at the gas stations that they were price gouging pretty bad.
Well, there were lines around the corner. Like, what are they going to do?
Sure.
You know, I mean, price gouging. They can sell it for whatever they want, in my opinion. But
Sure.
we made hundreds of deliveries every day. We ran several delivery truck routes every day, local. And it used to be, before 2001, you'd go in there and you'd throw the package on the desk, and the nice lady at the front desk would sign, and, hey, see you tomorrow.
Right.
Gone. Well, now it's stop at the front desk, sign in, get a badge,
Sure.
hang on, we'll have somebody escort you back. That never changed.
Sure.
And so we could make X number of deliveries a day.
Sure.
Overnight, we could make 20% of that.
Right,
And it
dropped.
never got better.
Yeah, for people who didn't do that, I mean, TSA is a perfect example.
TSA.
Right. So you could just walk through security, no problem. And then 9/11, everything changed. So now it's like, take the shoes off, take the belt off, take the hat off.
Banking laws
whatever.
changed.
Yeah,
Privacy, banking.
Oh,
Oh, my God. All
the
that
whole
changed.
whole Patriot Act.
Yeah.
I couldn't import steroids from China anymore. I tried desperately. So it's no dice.
One of our biggest customers at that time was Thrifty Rent-A-Car, and they filed bankruptcy. I mean, Thrifty Rent-A-Car essentially disappeared in March of 2002. You know, because they shut down all air travel for, several weeks.
Sure.
And then even after that, it didn't really come back. Those rental car companies just croaked because they're nothing but debt.
Right, sure.
I had about 10 to 15% of my customers filed Chapter 7. Like, that's it. Have an auction.
Right.
We're done.
Not 11. Not, right. We're it.
7. That's it.
Right. Liquidate.
In 02.
Yeah.
In 02, following that.
Yeah.
Like, I would call, like, Q-Tech Mortgage was one of them.
Sure.
It was a local mortgage company. And I'd call them to try to collect. Nobody to answer the phone. And I got in the truck. This is the first time it happened to me. I got in the truck and I drove over there. And there was a sign on the door, gone fishing. Like, you need to look through the window, put your hands up there and look through the window. And there was just papers on the floor. And I found the guy's house. I went and got the money.
Did you?
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's in bankruptcy court. I was like, I do not give a about your
I'm going to
bankruptcy
try to make
court.
this check clear.
Right. I got bills to pay, and you're going to pay them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I used to do that.
It was right on top of the tech crash, right? So you had the 2000, so 99, 2000, you had the massive internet bubble exploded, and then we had airplanes flying to the World Trade Center, and it was just
Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. So I'm not putting
collections
two and two together there.
I used to go do collections, and I'd be like, hey, I'd go to their office. Like, got some invoices here. I've already resent the invoices several times via mail and email. I've called, stonewall me, and I would go in there and like, hey, Mr. Jenkins, got some invoices here that are 90 days or more out, and your balance here is $6,200, and I'm here to get payment. And he's like, I'm sorry. Every time this is what they do. Oh, I'm sorry, we just can't. Our policy is, and then we're behind right now. We really need. And I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna take $6,200 worth of right now. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna take your computer, that painting over there, and your secretary's computer. He's like, you can't do that. I'm like, call the police or get the checkbook.
Right.
They always got the checkbook.
Right. And what percentage of the time do they clear?
Oh, 90? Every time.
Every time.
Oh, no, what are they going to do?
Well, sometimes I just wonder if the money's not in the account.
No, everybody's
never
lying.
bounced.
I don't remember ever having one bounce.
Yeah.
No kidding. I don't remember ever having one bounce.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that they were flush with money, but there's always some.
Sure.
Not always, but almost always some. I was in the business to business, so I wasn't dealing with
B2B, not
crackheads
B2C.
and whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So there was almost always something.
That is coming. It's coming now. It's only a matter of time.
What part is coming?
Well, that people defaulting on loans. We're about to have a major credit default problem. You got people who have increased their standard of living in the midst of COVID. They got government handouts. They got, between $5 and $10 trillion in cash. Nobody wants to take a job. We have twice as many jobs available as we have unemployment. So we have.
Do you believe that that's true?
Well,
I don't know.
I do. I do because I watch every time I go to a restaurant, there's signs on the door that say like, we're hiring. We can't hire. Like nobody will go work for $14 an hour anymore.
I don't know anybody who's paying it. Like, so
$14 an hour?
Yeah. So my daughter was working at Chick-fil-A and they had a deal up. Help Wanted starts at $14. I think it said $14.50. And so she's like, give me some of that $14.50. And they go in there, sign her up. She's like, you start Monday. She gets her first check. She's green as a gourd, Right. She gets her first check, $7.80. They're just lying. And that is not the
$7.80.
Yeah, I know dozens of these stories.
I didn't know.
Yeah, they're lying about this stuff so many times.
Kaylin Kinsley, you hear this? I'm paying my kids like $15 an hour to work for me.
That's a lot.
And they're like, I know it's too much.
Now,
well, my youngest
maybe there's somebody in a higher cost of living area where they do that, but in middle America, no.
My niece, we have a huge Amazon warehouse that just came in on the west side of Springfield.
They pay 15, right?
She's 17, 18 years old. And she's like, why would I go to college? I can go work at Amazon for $22.50 an hour.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, I know, but like, that's it.
Right.
You're never going to make 27.
Right.
You're never going to make 30, so.
The oldest daughter, they put a Dutch Brothers in town, coffee place, Yeah. I mean, built a new building, all this stuff, Help Wanted. They're having a job thing at the hotel. So she went, wore a Chick-fil-A uniform. She's like, and they're like, we want you to open. You're going to be a morning shift leader, blah, 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 $15. Maybe it was 14, 15, whatever it was. They're like, perfect. And she's like, she'd learned her lesson. She's like, send me the offer letter in the email. Right. See you cats Monday.
Yeah.
Send her the offer letter. It was $8.
That's crazy. This is the first time I heard of this.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I've got a friend that owns a machine shop.
They're lying about it.
All the time. Then there are ones
incredible.
that aren't lying about it. There are ones that aren't lying. Like I've got a friend that owns a machine shop and he's like, I can't get anybody to clean. So he's not talking about a janitor. A machine shop needs a guy to sweep up like the metal shavings, and clean machines between jobs and stuff like this. And he's like, and that's where you kind of start as a machinist maybe, right? Because you're around the machines. You learn how to maintain the machines. He's like, I can't get anybody to start. I'm like, what are you paying? He's like, 10. It's like, pay him 17.
Yeah, right.
He's like, shit, when I got started, we made blah, blah. I was like,
doesn't matter.
Right. I was like, okay, stand in the metal shavings. Just let them stand in those and let your machines break.
Sure.
Don't
three hours, now we're 21 more dollars.
Don't pay anybody.
Yeah.
Don't pay anybody.
Sure.
Belly ache and not raise the price.
Right.
Boomer.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much of that going on. They're like, fuck, we can't get anybody to work.
Well,
maybe.
That's a problem if the other places are lying about it. This is a problem.
Well, unless you figure out what the price really is, you get good people.
Yeah.
You get your jobs out the door. Your machines are well maintained. They don't break.
Sure.
Go pick their pocket. Let them lie about it. You actually pay and get people.
Sure.
But, I understand everybody's got the bins. Everybody's like disoriented about price.
Sure.
I got a price to have the air conditioning installed in this new house. And I was showing Dallas, my buddy Dallas. He had a stroke. It's like, that's crazy. Like, it's 2022, dude. Like, whatever price you thought it was.
Air conditioning in the house? Remember?
24,000.
$24,000 to get air conditioning in the house.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That is a lot.
I mean, it'll have 2 units.
Sure. Still.
It's deluxe. I'm having them do actually like sheet metal ducts and not the, Expando dumb stuff that comes in a box, in a bag. And that is probably a little high, but I had to get the paddles out and shock him. Like he had a heart, he died.
Sure.
His soul left his mouth.
That should be $6,000.
Right. And I'm like,
not like 18. It should be like
I
one
think
quarter of that.
I think it should be 20, 21.
Sure, I get it.
But the prices that
but he thought it should be a quarter of that.
Right.
This is how long it had been since he put in air conditioning in a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've got these boomers that own these businesses, or even older Gen X people. They're like, God, I started out at $535.
Sure.
Screw them. They can pay their dues.
Sure.
You can't even start your car.
Right.
And drive to that dump and make a sandwich for that.
I thank God we haven't had this at Barbell Logic. If you're listening and you work for me, don't pull this. But, you've got these people that are like, well, inflation, so I need a massive raise. It's like, guys, the cost of running the business has gone up.
Well, I know.
You can't give the massive raise. Like, if you want the massive raise, 25% of you getting fired.
This is the problem with inflation.
Well, it's the problem with minimum wage and all these things, right?
If the cost of doing business goes up and the cost of just being a person goes up, they need more pay.
That's right.
You need more price. Now the price of your product goes up, and now
the bottom 30 of your people get fired, and you
just goes
raise
up,
that's right.
Up.
That's exactly right.
It's a vicious cycle,
right? But the problem is that.
But here we are.
Well, I know, and I'm going to be careful and not get too political here, but it's like the problem is that it preys on lower class minorities, that group, because those are the people that end up getting fired, who don't have, a lot of experience, who don't have qualified work. So it's like, or even high school kids. Again, we talked about this, like if you go work at a fast food place at the Chick-fil-A, at the McDonald's, the entry minimum wage price, whatever that is, like not the national minimum wage, but even what the minimum wage is at McDonald's, it's made for a 16-year-old kid. It's not made for a single mom who's 35. I know, but and I get it. I understand the argument.
We sent all of our manufacturing jobs away, so now
this is the reap what we sow. But the problem is that
we
now,
reap what they sowed.
That's right.
We didn't do
that's
it.
Right. That's right. Well, right. And so now when our 16-year-old kids need a job, and they're only worth $8 an hour because they don't have any experience, because they're kids, and $8 an hour is what you deserve when you're 16 years old. You can't, they don't get a job anymore because the price is $16 an hour, and that goes to a 35-year-old.
Yeah, except 16 is not really 16 anymore.
Because of
inflation.
Taxes and inflation.
When I was 17, I worked at a grocery store. They hired me on at $4.35. I think I was 16. And I worked there for about 2 years.
Yep.
And I ended up being the assistant dairy manager.
There you go.
So I was 17, which would have been 1991.
Yep.
I was making $8 an hour.
Right.
I could do anything that I wanted to do.
Sure.
Like I paid for a used truck.
Sure.
I could put fuel in it. I could take my girlfriend out to dinner and a movie, save money, and do anything I wanted to do. I was dating Charity. I was making $8 an hour.
Right.
We would go to this Mexican restaurant. We would get the same thing. It was $13.12 before the tip. And it was a sit down place. It's a Mexican restaurant. It's not Ruth Chris.
Right.
But we could sit down with a tablecloth and have
chips and salsa, full meal.
For $13.
Right.
So it cost me with the tip
an hour and a half of work.
Hour and a half of work.
That's right. Right.
So how much is a mid-tier Mexican restaurant meal for young people with no booze?
$35.
Right. So what does the grocery store wage need to be?
Right.
If that's the index.
That's why it's come up.
I was paying 74 cents, 79 cents for gasoline.
Sure.
With no alcohol in it.
Yeah, no, I remember that too. I remember 79 cents, 97, 96, somewhere in there. Yeah, jumped up a bunch.
And driving a pickup that was completely and totally reliable that I paid $1,800 for.
Right. Same. I had a Ford Ranger.
I had a 7-year-old Ford Ranger.
That's what I had. Ford Ranger. Yep. Good gas mileage. Did fine.
I got 26 miles a gallon.
Right. As a matter of fact, and my first car was a 86 Chevy Nova that got 46 miles a gallon.
So for an hour and a half's work, I could run it dry and fill it all the way up.
That's right. Right. Yep.
So
my grandma, who's been dead for almost 7-8 years, almost 10 years now, she had a little Volkswagen Bug. And she had it since whenever they first came out, whatever that is, late 60s, early 70s, whatever that was. and she would go every week and put $2 of gas in it.
Mm-hmm.
And in like 1994, she put $2 of gas in it. She told my grandpa, she's like, I think there's something wrong with the car.
Right.
It's just not, I think it's burning gas too fast. And my grandpa was like, what's going on? So, I mean, for the last 20 years, I put $2 of gas in it every week, and it's just not going as far on $2. She had no clue, the gas had gone from 17 cents to $1 per gallon. So now it's $5.
Trudy's granddad told a story about in like 62 or something like that. He bought a Studebaker Hawk, new Studebaker Hawk. He worked at American Airlines. He drove it up there.
Miles a gallon.
No, you know what? They would have a 6-cylinder in it and do 22, something like that. Those they weren't that bad. Not that bad. So he was so proud of it. He drove it up there to work. Got my new car. Blah, blah, blah. So the guys he worked with were going out there and putting like 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of fuel in it every day.
Right.
So then he's like, man, this Hawk, man, I'm getting like 37 miles a gallon. And he's like, man, you got to go down to the Studebaker dealership and get you one of these, and then, back then the bearing materials and the lubricants weren't that good. You had a break-in period, They're like, don't go over 50 for, 400 miles and all this stuff. So they start putting a little more fuel in. He's like, man, I broke this thing in. I'm getting 41 miles a gallon.
Oh my! He didn't know they're
they're sneaking out there every day.
They're going out there putting it in.
Right.
To trick him, or because he was like a business? It was to trick him.
Yeah, they're just screwing with him, and he's boasting about it. Well, then they stop and they start siphoning like a 0.5 gallon out.
Oh no!
He takes it back to the dealership. It went on for like 90 days or something like that. Anyway, they broke it to him, and he was sore assed about it in like 1987.
Yeah, like 30 years later. That's good. Did you do anything for Independence Day?
Neighbors had us over to fish fry. We went over there and
fireworks or no fireworks?
I went to bed before that all started.
Not a fan of fireworks.
Oh, it's fine. I'm a fan of bed.
I'm a fan of bed.
Yeah. So about 9:00, we got in our little UTV and drove home.
Same. I had to fight with my family to leave. I like 4th of July as a holiday and the food and the family and stuff. I am not a fireworks fan.
Yeah.
Never been. 7, 10, 13 years old, didn't want fireworks.
Me neither, because it's wasteful.
It's just too damn loud. I'm just too autistic. Bothers my...
I'm glad you admitted that.
I told you that. I told my psychiatrist that, and she laughed at me. I was like, I think I'm autistic. And she laughed. She's like, you're not autistic.
No, you're not autistic. You're just a sociopath. You just don't care about other people's emotional states.
Bother my ears. Yeah, I'm not really worried about anybody else on the fireworks.
Right.
It's just myself. On the last podcast, I told Dan, I said, don't let the producer edit for content. And at one point, Scott screams in the microphone at one of his clients, leave it in there. Don't cut it out. That's what I said. So we'll see.
I just don't understand. I screamed at the client, but I'm like, I don't scream at him.
Sure.
I'm very fond of all of my clients.
Sure.
I keep doing it, coaching, because I'm fond of them.
Sure.
Because I'll tell you, I'm good at it. But you can only say knees out, ass back so many times. Like the magic's gone. All you people that want to be a coach are like, are you sure? Come on. But I'm really fond of all of them. But it's so frustrating and confusing and strange when they hire me and come to me and want to do better. And they've hired me to help them do that. And then they won't do it.
Yeah, right.
It's so crazy.
I had a guy.
It's like they're gaslighting me.
Right. I don't think they are. I just think they're ignorant, or they don't. I think
they've got psychological problems.
Yeah, I think they mean well almost all the time. I just don't. I think when they hire you or hire us, they think this is going to be the thing that helps me stick to the program and helps me do it. And then they don't.
You're like, no, you're the
right. You're the central issue with this. I had a guy. I want to be careful because I don't want to embarrass this guy or like call him out specifically too much, but. So a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I'd open up a handful of spots because I'm beta testing some wearables, Apple Watch, Whoop, Fitbit, Oura Ring, stuff like that. And I'm trying to get metrics.
Nuva Ring.
Not a Nuva Ring.
Oh.
I'm amazed that you know what that is.
Dude, I know everything.
Nuva Ring is what we used. So if you haven't used a Nuva Ring and you're looking for birth control, it's excellent. This is low dose.
You like stretch it out, put it around your sack?
No, but we actually had this conversation with my 17-year-old
the
other day, and I was like, hey, when you get ready to get married and we think Nuva Ring's probably the right way to go, and You just put it up in there. And she's like, how would I get it in there? And Rachel goes, your dad just put it in there for me every month. And my daughter was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever.
But it was with a slingshot.
It was a flap. It was with a chopsticks. So anyways, I had this guy a few months ago. He hired me. He was special forces as well. I won't say specific. He was a special forces guy. I won't say specifically, but I mean, it was
British Commando.
Not British. He was American.
Mossad.
No, I'm not going to say what he was. And you won't guess it. He was kind of one of those, kind of a fringe.
Executive outcomes?
Would you stop? He was EOD is what he was. So he hired me. He weighed 142 pounds. He was pressing about
5'4"?
No, 5'10". He was pressing 65 or 67 in the beginning, somewhere in that ballpark. Special forces. Guy that
what's EOD mean?
The bomb, does the bomb, whatever, what's a hurt locker? The guys that go in and they disarm bombs. I mean, that's a pretty hardcore job.
Yeah, super stressful.
Super stressful.
I'd probably weigh that too.
Well, I was just like, we've got to. You don't need to be 225, but you need to be strong and you be mentally tough. And nope, and constantly. In his mind, constantly injured, constantly hurt, knees ached, hips ached, everything ached, and never got strong, never did the program, never got strong, never did the thing. And when he got ready when he was kind of him-hawing about quitting, I was like, listen, man, I've made a mistake here. And again, if you're listening, I apologize that I even said this, but I was like, you were actually the weakest client I have, including all the women I have.
Was that true?
100% true.
Well, then it's true.
Every single female that I have was stronger than him. Stronger squats, stronger than deadlift, and right where he was on bench press and press. And this is a special forces guy that's supposed to protect our country from China and Russia. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know how to handle it. It's been a long time. So I don't take a lot of new clients. And I know our coaches get a lot of that kind of stuff, but it'd been a while since I had to deal with that as the owner and CEO of the company. But I was just like, I just let him have, I was just like, listen, I'm troubled by the fact that you are here to protect me, to protect our country.
Right.
And my wife is twice as strong as you are. That's a problem.
She's bumping
if you're
50.
as strong as she is and you're a 60-year-old executive, that's okay. But motherfucker, you are special forces in the army to protect our country, and your squat is 205 and your press is 85. That's a problem.
Yeah, I know.
And he did not take it. I didn't probably word it well. He didn't take it well. He was offended. He's like, I don't care. Don't compare me to your clients. I don't care at all about your clients. And part of me wanted to be like, why don't you? Why don't you? It's one of those deals where it's again, if you're an executive, you don't care about what my wife lists, but you're special forces in the army.
And were you really comparing him? No, you're trying to inform him.
Yes, I was trying to light a fire under his ass and it didn't work. It sort of
And you're
backfired.
just trying to inform him. However you think you're doing,
it ain't great.
You've been doing it for 4 weeks and most people start
right. No,
ahead
he did
of
it
you.
for 3 months. And
yeah, there you go.
That's the problem. Yeah. In 3 months, his squat was 200 and his press was 85. That's a problem.
If his job is like I think it is, humans experience stress.
Sure.
And I think that there's something that happens where all stress ends up being sort of decoded as injury, pain, discomfort, whatever. People can deal with X stress.
Sure.
And if you're always like, which wire do I cut and not get blown up?
It's a lot of stress.
That might be all the pressing that guy with his furniture, that might be it.
Sure.
Now, if that's the case, if my theory about stress is right, if my theory about his job is right, and what you say about his numbers are right, that's not the job for
He's
that
not the right
fucking
guy.
He's not the right guy.
I want to be careful. I don't want to get emotional here. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to visit Jaeger next weekend. Do you know that?
I've heard about it. Well, I didn't know you were going there.
He is dying of ALS. I think it's okay that I say that at this point.
Said it. Yeah.
He said it. He doesn't have long. This is probably it. I'm going to go out and see him. next weekend. It's going to be hard for me. And, these guys are tough motherfuckers. And I'm not. I'm emotionally, I get...
I'm a shopkeeper. I'm
going to get choked up. And these guys are like, hey, I've gone out, I've killed people in war, and don't cry for me. And I'm ready to face my maker and all. And I'm not, I don't handle that well. So we'll see how I do. I'm actually nervous about going out and seeing him next weekend. I may record some, may get some stuff there, but guys like him, there are guys that are part of that group, Mookie, and these guys who were contractors in the midst of, like, post 9/11 in 02, 03, 04, when it was the Wild Wild West. Those guys went in with an idea that they weren't coming home. They were like, this is it, Wild West. And they came home because they didn't think they were coming home. I've actually talked to all of them about this. They said that the most dangerous thing you could do was, like, file for leave and go home for 3 weeks, because you'd always get killed the day or two before you went on leave. So they're like, we just didn't file. We didn't go on leave. We just decided, like, we knew we were going to die here, and they didn't, and they got to come home when it was over. But, a guy like that, and again, I don't know all the details of the guy that I coach, but he just wasn't wired the same. He just wasn't wired the same. It was like, my knee hurts. This is achy. I don't think I can squat today. Went ahead and took the day off because I had a little bit of pain in the thing. And, Jaeger's got, I have no idea. He's got, I don't know, 45 or 55 tattoos up his forearms of shell casings of all the people he killed in war. It's not the same mindset.
No.
And Jaeger talks about, I have two other guys that I won't call out by name, but two other guys specifically. Jaeger's like, those guys were 10X the contractor I was, the warrior, the fighter that I was. And when I talked to those guys, their story was the same. They were just like, we just didn't think we were coming home. Wouldn't have anything to live for, didn't have families, didn't have wife, didn't have kids, abusive, often, like, home life growing up. Like, that was it. And then you get this guy, it's like, well, I'm 140 pounds, and I'm like, my knee is achy, and, like, I didn't get enough protein today, so I'm going to take the day off and go take a nap. Like, no.
Adventurers.
It's a problem for where we're going. So,
yeah, it is. How do you have an empire now?
How do you have an empire?
Yeah.
How do you create an empire?
Well, I mean, I had somebody message me the other day about doing this thing that we do. People send me these questions, or often want me to comment on things, you know. And somebody in our industry was talking about, instituting some sort of strength standards for basic training and all this stuff,
Sure.
It's that guy, and
yep.
And I love the idea, but the whole 200, 300, 400, 500 thing that everybody's chased for so long, that is pie in the sky for almost everybody.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if it's the food. I don't know if it's like the systemic stress in North America. The normal guy cannot do 2, 3, 4, 5 anymore without, like, quitting his job, without getting, like, crazy, without getting crazy.
Sure.
A high school football player, with a meal ticket, can do that. But the average 28-year-old guy, you think if we went to the mall, well, nobody goes to the mall. If we went somewhere and plucked out a 28-year-old at random,
could he
can do it?
No. I don't know.
We're not going to put him in the dorm,
podcast,
right? He's still going to have his job.
No, I get it. We talked about this on the podcast earlier today, where it's like, I actually hadn't thought about that. Like, the systemic stress on the average, not just American, but anybody in the kind of Western world, in the modern world, has been exponentially increased. So I don't know. I mean, that's a great point. I think it's why you should, it's again, another great reason why you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. You just keep making progress, keep plugging along, and see where you go. I mean, we talked about this, but both Charity and Rachel were similar to this, that Rachel, for sure, I can speak to, and I think you'll speak to Charity, but Rachel just didn't understand what strong was for a female.
Right.
And because she got really strong and didn't understand. She was like, oh, is a 400-pound deadlift strong? And you're like, for a 43-year-old female?
Right.
Yes, it is. Is a 350 squat strong? Yes, it is. But she didn't know because she's not on Instagram. Like, she follows her friends and family and church on Instagram. She doesn't follow, like, fitness people.
So what do you think, by the way? So a 405 deadlift, is that what the number you're talking
402 is her best deadlift.
405, 4 plates.
Yeah.
A 405 deadlift for a woman, what's that for a man? 7.25?
Oh, I was going to say 585 or something like that. Close to 6. Maybe not. It's probably maybe higher.
I don't know.
Maybe higher. Right, sure.
But it's rare.
Right. Of all the women who lift heavy barbells, how many can deadlift 400 pounds?
How many do I? I mean,
one in 100, one in 200,
dude.
One in 500,
maybe.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Between 600 and 700 probably for a guy. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, 585 or more.
But I will say this: I do think that in a world, and again, in a world where you're not stressed about money and the world and COVID and your kids getting sick and job losses, I don't think it's guaranteed for every female out there, but I think it's doable for 50% or more if they don't have a bunch of life stress on top of it. If they're able to train. I mean, Rachel hit that. I remember we were on vacation. We went on a 3-week vacation. 2 weeks before the meet, we went to the Grand Canyon. We went to Telluride. I remember her deadlifting. I remember going to like Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and we lifted with like the Solins, and we were at altitude. And then we went to Flagstaff, and then like in Telluride, she deadlifted, I think, 375 or 385 at Telluride at 11,000 feet in elevation.
After being in a car.
Yeah, after being in a car for hours and hours. And so, it's not like my wife has never been like a professional athlete. She's a mom. She's taking care of kids. She's making food. And then she just goes and lifts. Like when we're like, okay, let's go to the gym and train. So I do think it's possible. But you make a great point that I think the thing that is the unseen or sort of managed sort of thing is like, what is that other stress, that non-productive stress over the last few years is really hard to quantify. What impact has it made?
I know it's higher.
Of course it is.
Enormously higher. I think the food's gross too. I think the food quality has dropped.
Sure.
In everything.
Sure.
Yeah, I've only been doing this for 8 years, something like that. But I've seen big changes in 8 years.
Sure.
It's really crazy.
Sure.
Yeah, it used to be if a guy was over 6 feet tall, you're like 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sure.
Let's go.
No problem.
Let's go.
Right.
Now you're like, this guy travels some.
Yeah, right.
Like,
eats out too much.
Probably not,
Right.
Yeah, it's too stressful or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then young guys, I mean, come on. Like, that used to be, if I got a 23-year-old client, I'm like, we're going to run this up. This guy's going to get donkey strong.
Sure.
Like, this is going to change his life.
Sure.
Like, he doesn't have a girlfriend right now, but he's getting ready. Like, stuff's going to happen. Like, he's going to get a better job. And now
whole life's going to get better.
Right.
And you're like,
now I'm like, I
survival mode.
I wonder if we can get his bench press to 2 plates for a single.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I don't think it'll last. I know you do probably. I don't know.
I don't know about that part.
Yeah.
But I don't know how it turns around because I don't even know what caused it.
Well, I mean, just
it would be interesting to hear from your other coaches.
Sure.
Because maybe I'm just like increasingly sucking or something.
Just imagine if, from 1930 to 1943, 45, you had the same conversation and you were like, Great Depression, World War II, awful. And then all of a sudden you blink and it's 1955, 1957, and it's like, life's good again. So like that day is going to come again. I don't know if you're convinced of that, but like
for the Chinese,
I think it will for us as well. But though I do think we're on the decline, but I still think there's times of prosperity coming. But I could be wrong. I'm not certain of those things. But I think that what we're in now is not going to last forever. I do think it'll last longer than most people think it'll last. I don't think we're in a.
It tends to. My biggest fear is that we paper this over and keep kicking the economic can
down the road.
Because the longer it goes on, when it hits, the worse it's going to be.
You want it to like, and
rip
really,
the bandage off.
You would say the same thing for like 2008,
dude.
We should have just
suffered it out for X years.
Sure.
But now we keep kicking the can. Now they've printed $22 trillion or whatever the number is. Inflation, blah, 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 blah. Like, good Lord. Like, nobody even knows what things cost.
Right.
Like, everything's so broken. You don't even know.
Right.
You don't even know.
Right.
Like I said, my biggest fear is they paper over it and we kick the can 8 more years, 12 more years, 6 more years.
For our clients, for our listeners who have a gym. No, for real. For clients who have a gym at home, like I can't give you any, like, I can't promise that your job is going to be okay. I can't promise that your finances are going to be okay. But like one of the things that can be a staple in what you do is that you train. I think for me, at least in the midst of, listen, I struggle in the midst of like super stress.
Oh, I do.
Federal lawsuits, training's hard.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Marriage is struggling, training's hard. But in the midst of this, if you can force yourself to do the thing you're supposed to do, which is train, and maintain stability and consistency there. I found that when I'm able to do those things, it works out for my better, for sure, for my joy, not for a fleeting happiness, for a long-term sort of thing that works. So I think it's the best thing we can do. I think it's the voluntary hardship that we can do. In the midst of right now, a lot of people going through involuntary hardship times, tough times financially, tough times with jobs, tough times with inflation. Housing's going to be at interest rate on housing is going to be 10% before you know it, which it's been for a long time. Like, again, our generation has never known that, but our parents' generation, they bought houses at 15, 16, 17%.
Yep. Which was too high, but...
Right, it was definitely too high, but we got used to buying it at 3, 2.8.
That's insane.
That's insane, right? And so, 5, 6, that'll be okay.
It needs to be 7.
Right, that area is fine.
It does. It needs to be 7.
13's not a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, 13's a problem. 2 is a worse problem than 13.
Right, too low.
The 13, demands caution.
Sure.
2, come on, do whatever you want.
That's right.
Insane.
Yeah.
3, insane.
Yep.
No, but I got to go back to it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Man, that's a rarer and rarer occurrence. That's so interesting to me. But, I think just people are just really hurting, and it just weighs on them.
How long do you think it would take you right now after being on the farm if you trained seriously, even while working on the farm? So knowing that you're not going back to the life you had, but now that you could do a 2, 3, 4, 5.
I will probably never
hit it again.
Some of those things, I do not have the willpower to ever squat 405 again.
Okay. Got it.
I hate it like poison. I don't have the willpower to go in there like, okay, today I got to do, set it. I got to do set at 370 and then back offs at 350.
Sure.
To get there. I can't do it.
Right.
Call me a puss, whatever. I hate it.
The difference is like your life versus my life. My life is super stressful, but it's emotionally, psychologically stressful, not physically stressful. Your life is physically stressful, but not as much.
I think so.
Emotionally, psychologically. So I definitely hit 2, 3, 4, 5 today. No problem. Right? Like I just walk in the gym right now in your bedroom.
Well, a 500 deadlift is, 5/7 of your best,
Correct. Right. Which is the difference where it's like, as opposed to 95% of your best.
That is my best. 500 on a B&R bar in shoes is the best I've ever done. Yeah. I've pulled it a few times.
Sure.
With a stiff bar in shoes is the worst I've done.
Yeah.
I pulled it with a deadlift bar. I probably could have doubled it or tripled it and didn't. If Trent had been there, he's like, if you can pull it for 1, you can pull it for 2,
I agree.
Yeah. Once you're under it and you're tight and you get it, you probably can.
Second rep's always easier than the first.
Yeah. Bench press has really been struggling. I don't know if I could ever pull 500 without extraordinary. Like when I hit all my best numbers, I was eating and sleeping, swimming in my pool.
What's the winter going to look for you this winter? Like December, January, February.
Worse.
What are you doing? Why worse? What are you doing?
Because the weather isn't terrible.
But what are you doing? What are you doing in the farm?
I'm going to be putting in irrigation stuff.
Okay.
I'll cut all the firewood for the next winter.
You put an irrigation with the frozen ground?
Oh, we're in Oklahoma. It's not that big a deal. And then I've got to clear all the fence line on the north property.
Okay. So you got a lot of work to lift.
Got a lot.
But is there a time, and I asked you this, there's a time probably coming a year or two from now where a lot of that fence line, house.
Yeah, a lot of that
you're able to
get
just
better.
Farm.
Yeah, more.
At some point you'll be able to farm.
Chores instead of.
Sure. You have to repair fence and things like that, but you're not have to cut fence line as much. Yeah.
But 2019 is when I got those PRs. I'm 3 years older.
You're freshly retired.
Yeah.
Now you're not retired again.
Yeah. So, it'd be tough. I'll probably chase something or another.
Sure.
It won't be squat.
Sure.
I just don't care. It's so hard for me. It's so bad.
I think about
Sims, why does Nikki squat? Why does Nikki squat?
Well, because she still competes, but I think about a 605 squat for me. I think I'm going to squat 405 for triple this coming week. That's 2/3 of my best squat. 605, I think about 605 and I'm like, no way. Again, there are deadlifts where I'm like, maybe I can get closer to deadlift.
Go get your hips repaired.
Nah, I'm not. They don't hurt that bad. Well,
listen, if you don't want to get your hips repaired, fair enough.
Right.
Then don't chase that squat.
No, I won't. I'm not going to.
Because it's,
I'm not going to. I'm just doing it for accessory. Okay. We've been going an hour and a half. I don't know, encouraging stuff for the listeners as we leave the episode.
Oh, gosh. If there has ever been the time to have an adventure,
now's the time.
Since the 60s.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is it.
Right.
I think there is
Go to Peru, climb a mountain.
No, it'll
not
be
that.
coming to a town near you.
Go to a rural town in Oklahoma.
No, we're full.
A rural town in whatever, Arkansas,
they're
Missouri.
full too.
Okay.
In a rural town in a blue state. No, but like there's getting ready to be a reordering. Like whether
Sure.
you're like, have a gloomy outlook or not, like
Sure.
3 years from now, it's going to be very different.
Sure.
Like in that reordering, the clever, energetic person has an opportunity to have a crazy adventure.
Sure.
And yeah, there's getting ready to be a reordering.
Yeah.
However you want to look at it. If you're, an optimistic, technophile and you think that, that Elon Musk is going to fix it, there's going to be an adventure.
Sure.
If you're a Luddite like me and you think that it's going to make it worse, there's going to be an adventure. Like there is a time for a heroic person of will to do some really interesting stuff. Yeah.
So I haven't said this on the podcast, but 2024, DeSantis versus Newsom. DeSantis is the president.
Hard rodeo. Who cares?
Well, I just want to put it in audio.
Okay. That's bold.
I'm not saying that's what I want or that's what I like.
It's just a prediction.
Prediction only.
Right.
I mean, I do
might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think DeSantis will run on the right. I think Newsom's going to run for the left. I think the Democrats are going to continue to push the Biden, mental whatever, instability problems, dementia, and that Newsom will run. He's already run. He ran ads July 4th weekend.
Oh, he did?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's running ads. And DeSantis will win by
Did you ever watch the
8 to 10 points, probably.
Did you ever listen to or watch the Carolla Newsom interviews?
No.
He was on the Adam Carolla podcast when I think he was the mayor of LA for a time.
Before he's governor. Yeah.
Like, this isn't politics. The guy's IQ is not high.
No. Sure.
He's a good looking guy. He's charismatic.
Sure. Not smart.
Oh my gosh. The guy's an imbecile.
Yeah.
So was George Bush.
Sure.
I'm not even political. It's just not an impressive person.
Sure. Yeah.
But that doesn't matter, So maybe he'll get elected. I don't know.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't even care.
Okay. That was Anecdotes. Anything else?
Now, there is a time for an adventure. Like a person of will.
Sure.
Can hook it up. Can hook it all up. It'd kind of be fun to be 18.
Yeah, it would be. Young. Yeah.
It's a little bit spooky, but
for sure.
It could be all right.
Less to lose.
Yeah, you could establish a fiefdom.
Yeah. A fiefdom.
Yeah.
Low risk, high reward. Not for 18-year-old. That's the way it is for us.
It will be.
Long term, but not in the short term. So, all right. That's an hour and a half. Barbell Logic podcast.
That's nothing.
We're giving you 3 from Scott and Matt. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Little anecdotes there. Fun life stories. You got anything else you wrote down?
Go listen to our Growing Resilience podcast and hear about the
I'm excited.
tales
I was telling Dan this today. I was like, did you know Scott had a Growing Resilience podcast? He's like, yeah, it's like really good. And he's got some sort of crazy guy who lives in teepees and stuff and like berms or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to listen to that on the way home tomorrow while I'm driving. So you got that. You got Music and Ideas, which doesn't come out very often. But I will say, I will speak for the Bluegrass and the Outlaw Country episodes, as well as the Yodeler.
Yeah, Jimmy Rogers
episode. Excellent.
Thank you.
All this stuff is so good.
The Western Swing.
I will say about Scott, I think Scott is the best color man in podcast history.
Thank you.
In the Music and Ideas podcast, occasionally he's the play-by-play guy. And it's actually interesting to listen to that. So again, if you want to listen to, the High Mountain Sound stuff, Outlaw Country, Jimmy Rogers, that kind of stuff. What's the Kane's Ballroom?
We did one Western Swing.
Famous place here in Tulsa. All that stuff. Scott is just like, he's just like a file cabinet of knowledge. It's really interesting to listen to hear him do the play-by-play.
We've got to do one, a Willie Nelson one, I've been talking about putting one in the can because Willie's 88.
Sure.
Like we just need that in the can. We've been talking about that. Turnpike Troubadours are touring again, my favorite band.
Yeah.
So as soon as they drop a new album, we got to do a Turnpike Troubadour thing. Yeah. Do you listen to Turnpike?
A little bit, just because you told me to, but
you didn't love it.
It's fine. It's good.
Fine.
It's good. I think I never got through when you don't. I don't think I got through the, when you don't know the songs, it takes a while to learn the songs and sing the songs.
There are no bad Turnpike Troubadour songs.
It's fair enough.
Evan Falker's the best songwriter in the United States now.
It's probably fair.
Well, Willie is, but Willie's not writing much.
Right.
But Evan, unbelievable.
Yeah.